I think this is gonna open new possibilities. My son, he's not thinking about building a company. It's just like impossible. A marketing major with not a day of coding experience. But this is exciting opportunities, right? You come up with an idea, you can realize it. 20 years back, you start a company, you had to buy machines, find a room, put them all in, develop the software. Today, you can start a company as fast as you turn your car on.
Hi, my name is Boaz, and I'm the CEO and founder of Augmented AI Labs. I'm excited that you're tuning into the Shift AI podcast today, a show that explores what it takes to thrive and adapt to the changing workplace in the digital age of remote work and AI. In today's episode, I'm thrilled to have Dr. Vanja Josifovski as our guest. Vanja is the CEO of Kumo, a Sequoia-backed company that's revolutionizing how businesses unlock value from their structured data. With an impressive background as former CTO of both Airbnb and Pinterest, he helped pioneer the predictive AI and machine learning systems that power recommendation engines used by millions of people daily. Now, with 37 million raised in partnerships with industry leaders like Databricks and Snowflake, Kumo is tackling one of the AI's biggest challenges, turning business data into actionable insights. If you're interested in why the AI revolution has largely overlooked structured business data, and how to bridge the gap between AI predictions and real-world business decisions, you are not going to want to miss this episode. We also want to send out a special thank you to Augmented AI Labs for sponsoring this episode. This is going to be a great show, and we are super excited to have Vanja on today. We're excited to learn more about his business and unlock hidden potentials in business data. So let's get to it. All right, Vanja, thank you so much for being on the Shift AI podcast. I'm really excited to talk with you today.
Well, thanks for having me. This is very exciting times and definitely a very exciting topic these days, right?
Yeah, it is. We're going to get into what Kumo does, but you know, I think that it's interesting to talk a little bit about your background, and I'll kind of talk a little bit about what I know about your background, and you can fill in any of the gaps. But you've been doing AI and ML for a long time. You were the ex-CTO at Pinterest and ex-CTO at Airbnb on the homes side, which is a pretty big part of their business. And now you are the CEO and co-founder of Kumo.ai. A lot of the work you're doing is in the consumer space with predictive AI, which is in some ways a little bit overlooked, I think, in the ways that people deal with relational databases. I think that's just going to be fun to unpack that and talk about that. I'm sure, there's a lot of other things that you've done, including an advisor to a lot of companies, but you want to fill in some of the gaps in terms of your background?
Yeah, I mean, if I look back on my career, stepping back, I moved to the Bay Area just out of grad school in early 2000, just before the bust, right? And I think, at the time databases were the software industry around here. It was all about, companies were starting to produce data, and so now they were using it in essential kind of operations like transaction processing and so on. That was the first step of the enterprise data. And then, if you look over the years, companies moved into using it for decisions. And that's how analytics came in. And then further on, machine learning and so on, a more granular level. I started working with, I had some contacts with AI in the, early 90s when I was in college. I remember somebody did a text classifier, document classifier with a training set of 260 examples. That was huge. And then I remember the times of Prolog, where we thought we're gonna have, it was as big as now, maybe in terms of like it was all over the place. We thought we're gonna have artificial doctors in ears,
Yeah.
and then kind of, that symbolic approach didn't pan out. And then, I think my real professional journey with AI started about 20 years ago, when I joined Yahoo in 2005. I was a systems guy, the databases and search infrastructure, but I wanted to get into more of the data mining space, it was called at the time. And there was this famous professor visiting our Yahoo labs, and I went and I said, hey, should I move into this space? And he listened to me. He was very thoughtful about it. He asked me everything I know. And he said, I don't think you should go into data mining. And I said, why? And he said, well, your math background might not be strong enough. That's one thing. And even if you overcome that, almost every algorithm of importance in data mining has been invented. It's going to be all incremental from here. So, that just tells you how hard it is to predict the future, even for people that are actually building it. I got into, the ML machine learning at the time, building ads selection system and recommender systems, and over time, through Google, I was on the research side in Google Research. You know, I think it was called Brain at the time. Where some of the algorithms were invented, and I think the journey of my career through the AI world is the journey of a simple vector, the embeddings, and somehow we started building embeddings about 20 years back, and that compress and encode the entities you're reasoning about. And initially we did this completely random. We're hashing things. There is a famous lemma, Lindemann Strauss Johnson lemma, or Lindemann Johnson Strauss lemma, I forgot, but which underlies the whole movement of using vectors and embeddings to. And even if you do it randomly, you have some benefits. But then over time, the amount of information we're able to pack into those entities has just gone through the roof. And we've invented better and better ways, culminating with the transformers today that just do an insanely good job in capturing the essence of our world into simple vectors, right?
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
amazing. I mean, given all that history leading up to Transformers, can you talk a little bit about just how you feel about what's happening in Silicon Valley right now? I mean, you're right in the heart of it, and you had this experience before Transformers. Like, what's your sense of where things are at now? And give us a little insight on how you are looking at that.
I think when we look at the set of technologies that kind of led to this moment now, and then everything. I mean, it's a huge breakthrough. However, as I said, we were first randomly hashing stuff into vectors because we were going to compare ads and pages, because putting relevant ads increase the revenue, but you get only a fraction of penny. So encoding it into vectors was just a lot cheaper and give you a financially feasible way to put ads. And then we went through the whole kind of mathematical kind of phase of these things. We were using distribution, LDA, PLSI, these all methodologies coming one after another, and just being very much better. But I think what happened with transformers is not only the architecture, but posing the problem in a way that allows to do a huge scale kind of learning, and then a lot of stuff on the top, obviously, that happened over time, reinforcement learning, and so on. I think it's a true breakthrough. If you ask me, this is intelligence, and something flipped. It wasn't the business as usual, and to some extent, if you compare to other breakthrough moments like in the internet, and I think I feel that the internet was more predictable. It wasn't completely predictable. We couldn't, for example, predict the impact on politics that it has today, right? But AI is much more potent, it's stronger to the kind of impact. And that's what I think is going to be much more unpredictable. I'm a super optimist. I'm super excited to be alive at this time. And I'm super curious of what things going to come next. I believe it's going to be a much better world with this new technology. I think we as humanity will find a way to make this better for majority of the people. And I think it's also unstoppable, right? We have to be in it.
Yeah, I mean, the train has left the station clearly, and we're not going back. I want to get into kind of future stuff, but I before I do that, will you talk to the audience a little bit about Kumo and also just the problem that you guys are trying to solve when it comes to structured business data and just
Mhm.
how you think about it? How did you lead to founding the company?
If you look at me, Yura, and Hema, the three founders, we spent good chunk of the last couple decades working on helping companies get value out of data. You know, it's like we started working on search ads with him at Yahoo. It's like what are the right ads to show to people, recommendations with Yura and at Pinterest and so on. So all of this is companies collect data, and a lot of that is about entities, maybe customers, maybe products, and then events. You know, what customers did with products, purchases, clicks, and so on. And this type of data is then used to power some of the key business decisions, like recommenders, fraud detection, and so on. However, this data was left behind in the current AI revolution. Is that, we computer vision in general, for example, transition from manual feature engineering. We used to do that. I've actually written code to find edges in images and then use those in image classifiers. And somebody then invented convolution. I don't remember who did it, but which basically a simple sliding window over the image eliminates the need for manual feature engineering, and it gives you a lot better results. Tabular relational data, which is the core of enterprise data, because of the nature of the things, is still stuck in the pre-deep learning time. The way you do it today, you would have a data scientist, manually join the data in multiple different tables and then do some aggregations to produce features. Like if I'm a customer, I need to purchase things. If I've purchased 10 things before, then we will aggregate the average price of the last 3 purchases, the average price of the last 10 purchases, and so on. Those will be the features. It's all done manually. And what is the reason for that? The reason for that is that images and text are much simpler. Image is a simple matrix, text is a simple string. It's like, how do you reason about this data in data warehouses? So we've brought deep learning and the new AI methodologies directly to relational data in multiple different tables to make things a lot easier, to really unlock the value of enterprise data.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. I want to talk about the implications of that. I know that
Mhm.
there's like a fraud is a big one of being able to detect fraud, but the personalization for the consumer experience, can we just discuss that a little bit? And what is that going to look like for people that are used to shopping online? Like, how is that going to change now that there is more powerful ways of understanding what their habits are, good and bad? Like, personalization could be good, but what are both sides of it?
Well, I think personalization has been around for a while, and people are to some extent used to it. I think we've gotten better in terms of ways, providing people ways to deny it if you don't want it. I don't think it's perfect, but I think it's just gotten better. If it's done the right way, it's it then it's very beneficial to people, and to some extent expected. When you turn on the TV and you watch your favorite streaming channel, you want to get the right recommendations. You
Yeah.
want to get the right things that gets you there. I think our life personal experience, beyond personalization, is gonna change vastly in the next 10 years, to the point that every one of us will be able to converse and interact with a copy of ourselves. you know and and I think, for good and for bad, we'll have to kind of overcome the consequences of having that ability, and everything's going to be super personalized. It's going to be the best.
So paint me
uh,
that picture. Paint me the picture. You're a consumer now, 5 years from now,
mhm,
and
mhm.
people are really using AI and machine learning in ways that they weren't able to before, especially within these business data sets. How does it look different?
It looks different that, if you enter a virtual store, there might be an agent that's going to greet you there, that's going to talk in the way that's going to be very personalized to you.
Mm,
First, the demeanor and so on. That's going to be able to give you the best possible recommendation, as you were able to hire the best fashionista to be your best buddy, and to understand all the feedback you're giving back instantaneously, and make that whole experience very human-like and natural. I'm actually excited about that,
yeah.
right?
And that's
Maybe I'll
across all
shop
sorts
more
of
then,
things. I
right?
mean, that's travel and clothing and music and video. I mean, it's across all those
That's all
verticals.
of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I want to switch gears. I have a question just because you have spent a lot of time managing a lot of engineers over your career.
Mm.
And recently with new tools like Claude Code coming out and the new CLI that Gemini just released. And I'm talking to a lot of developers, and they're super excited about the potential for this, but their jobs are really changing. And I just wonder if you could talk a little bit about that and how you think software development is changing and the way that that's going to play itself out the more and more we have these powerful tools like Claude Code.
I mean, there's a spectrum of outcomes here, right? If we go looking forward, there is an outcome that the capabilities of these tools might plateau, and for some reason we get stuck in this lower level of intelligence. I would say probably high school intern level kind of a way of doing things, and there will be a lot of work on the top to overcome that, but people will gradually get used to this. But still, engineering will to some extent remain as it is today. There were a lot more people being able to do it. My son, without a day, an hour in his life coding, took a job at a 4 people startup. He's writing code with cursor every day today. And I think most people can do that. The thing about him, he was pushed into it. He wasn't comfortable with it. But once he overcome that period, now he's so empowered. And I think that's where we're gonna get. It's gonna take some time for people to get there. And then on the other spectrum of the outcomes, there is an outcome when we have super intelligence, and in that case, I cannot tell you what's gonna happen. I don't know, but we can take it a notch down. There is an outcome when the technical agents are, say, top tier university PhD level capability. And I think if that happens, and I think there's a reasonable possibility that that would happen in the next, I would say, 10 years. If I have to make a bet, I don't usually don't bet. My maximum amount is $5, but I would bet you $5 that this could happen in the next 10 years. I think then I think the productivity of the human race is going to go through the roof. The way we value technical roles will change, and I think that's fine. I mean, in ancient Egypt, the most one of the people that were higher on the scale were the scribes, because they could write, and and so that's not something that's really top of mind today. So I think fine, some of the technical work could be done by machines, and then I think we need to go back and be good at what we are as humans, and have strategic thinking and entrepreneurship and all of that.
And now, before we dive deeper, I want to take a quick moment and tell you a little bit about one of our podcast partners. As a listener of this show, I know you're trying to stay on top of all things AI and tech, which is why you have to check out the amazing GeekWire podcast, produced by GeekWire and hosted by Todd Bishop. It's a treasure of insights featuring industry leaders and the latest tech trends that are shaping our world, and the perfect companion podcast to shift AI. GeekWire Podcast is where technology meets curiosity and covers the world of technology, startups, and geek culture. Expand your tech horizons and join the conversation. Tune into the GeekWire Podcast today, a perfect complement to our own discussions here. Don't miss out. Follow the GeekWire Podcast on Apple Podcast, Spotify, or your favorite listening app. Before we go further with the interview, I want to tell you about one of our podcast sponsors, Augmented AI Labs, and how they're transforming businesses through intelligent AI solutions. Augmented AI Labs specializes in helping organizations unlock their potential with Gen AI, starting with your most valuable asset, your business knowledge. Their comprehensive process begins by identifying critical workflow challenges and knowledge needs, then building custom solutions that make your company's expertise instantly accessible. The Augmented AI Labs team combines fine-tuning and retrieval methods to ensure your AI solutions truly understand your business context. They thoroughly test and validate each solution, ensuring it delivers measurable value before creating a detailed technical blueprint for deployment. The real beauty of partnering with Augmented AI Labs is that they don't just stop at strategy. They build, deploy, and manage these solutions for you, continuously improving your knowledge systems while you focus on what you do best. If you're ready to transform how your organization leverages AI and knowledge, visit augmentedAIlabs.com and click on the Contact Us button. That's augmentedAIlabs.com. Now back to the episode. You started the show by saying you're an optimist. And so as you look into the future, let's imagine that that plays out in that way, in some way that looks kind of like that. And now the machines are getting really, really powerful. There may still be some things that as humans we are good at, and that could be, emotional intelligence and other things, the
Mm-hmm.
ability to have relationships and so on. What does the positive future look like in your mind? What are you most excited about? That and we can kind of predict a little bit and,
I
and
mean,
say, yeah,
I think the rate of innovation in pharma, in medicine, and energy
yeah,
could go through the roof. Whatever we can achieve as a humanity in 50 years could be doable in 5. I'm not very excited about going to Mars, honestly.
yeah,
I don't know if that's really important for us, but I think getting cheap, clean, and abundant energy could be a game changer for us as a humanity.
yeah.
And I feel that then we need to think how we renegotiate the societal contracts.
Tell me more about
Uh,
that. What do you mean?
I mean, if distribution of wealth and all of that, I think there will be enough for everybody
Hmm.
to have a great life. And I don't know the shape of a contract here.
Yeah,
And I come from Eastern Europe. I've seen how those type of things can go
sure.
pretty
Sometimes it
wrong.
doesn't work that well. Yeah, but
Right. But
yeah,
but I think there must be a way to do this.
yeah, yeah.
That
Especially if what you say is true, and diseases are going to start going away, and people are going to live longer, and energy is not a huge issue anymore, which will help the climate. There's going to be a lot of good things that happen out of that. How does that play out for folks? And I wonder about that too in terms of job. We're seeing a huge amount of job loss in the last 3 months at big tech companies. A lot of engineers losing their jobs. I mean, a lot of them are also starting, small companies too. So, and are able to do that without huge engineering teams. But I wonder societally if we see 20% unemployment, which some people are predicting, what is that going to mean? I mean, recently Bernie Sanders came out and said, well, if we're going to see that much unemployment, maybe we should have 3 days off instead of 2 days off on the weekend. And so people are thinking through it. How do you think about it?
I think throughout the human history, we have never been in the position that large societies would have such abundance that can support everybody. That has never happened with whatever point of history. So I think it's a very new thing for us to kind of think through. If abundance becomes a fact, I think it's going to take some trial and error, and obviously, and to some extent, some instability. But I think, as an optimist in general, I feel that it's going to be a wonderful moment, for us as a humanity to figure that one out. I believe that this country specifically, but you know also the world in general, will be able to figure that one out. And I hope that we lead the world. When I say we, here in the U.S., and as I said, there could be some setbacks, and it could be up and downs, but I believe that eventually we'll figure it out. But it's if anybody, it's a completely new type of a situation, and so I don't think there's precedent for it, and that's why it's going to take some time to figure.
Yeah, I hope you're right. I mean, I think there is going to be a wave that hits pretty hard first and a lot of job losses. But I, I I'm an optimist too. And, I think a lot of people now are scared, and, the narrative in the media about the machines taking over is pretty prominent. But I can see a future where it's not the scarcity narrative, it's the abundance narrative. And it'd be a great problem to have.
I haven't looked at the statistics about job losses, but I feel that that's a very complex issue. I think a lot of companies, at least those that I'm familiar here in the Valley, probably overhired over the last decade or so,
Yep.
and significantly then during Corona. And honestly, just being in a small company, working hard is a norm. But I think these companies have understood that for a while. They just never had an opportunity to correct that due to, I think, public perception of them.
Yeah.
And now it's become normal. And I think they're all, to some extent, it's not only the AI, it's just finding an excuse for
Yeah, I've
trimming
heard that
down.
too. I've heard that some of these companies are letting people go because of the research tax incentives that are no longer available. And it just happens that aligns with AI, and it's an easy finger to point at. So I think it is pretty complex. Um, but speaking of small companies, I mean, your whole career has been spent at large companies, Yahoo, Pinterest. How does it feel to be running a small company now? And also, you think about AI and the potential to have the horsepower, engineering horsepower that you haven't had in the past. Like, how does that feel?
Yeah, I mean, I had another startup before that Pinterest acquired, but it was very short-lived, about 9 months. I think this is my first significant small company, and I always say it's, for me, the biggest kind of challenge personally transitioning into this role has not been learning fast enough, but unlearning fast enough. It's incredible with all the experiences I had, how much of that experience does not apply. And applying those principles to this is damaging. Thinking and planning and anything less than a month is useless, in many ways. Hiring the right people with the right attitude is a completely different hiring. It's a completely different execution rhythm. It's a complete, I always say we all a little bit of a stem cell in small companies, undifferentiated. We still have to do a lot of different things, and not all people kind of can sustain that. And small companies in some extent are always a little bit of a cult, because you wouldn't be in there if you go by just pure rational numbers, right? You have to have some fundamental faith and believe in it that keeps you pushing forward and coming. So I think it's a very different mindset. I always say this is the best job I've ever had, and that I love my job 80% of the time. And I think that's a pretty high number, but it's very different. I started this company in my early 50s, so mid 50s now. And people are like, "Hey, but why do this?" The excitement and the learning I've gotten from this role is just tremendous. It's amazing. It's like, I don't know. I always compare it like skiing. When you're mastering a new slope, or a new forest or so on. It's like that level of excitement.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, I always like to ask the same question to all the guests at the end of the show, and that question is: if you were to describe the future of work, the future of AI, in 2 words, what would those 2 words be? And then I want you to elaborate on those 2 words.
Lots of fun.
All right, that's great. So go elaborate.
No, as I said, I think this is gonna open completely new possibilities. And again, going to my son, it's like he's not thinking about you know building a company by himself. It's just like impossible. A marketing major with not a day of coding experience. Yeah, he's learning to some stuff. Like he understands now he needs to back up, because if your code does something wrong,
Sure. Right.
but this is exciting opportunities, right? I mean, you come up with an idea and you can realize it, like 20 years back, if you start a company, you had to buy in the software space, you have to buy the machines, you have to find a room, you have to put them all in. You have to develop all the software, right, on the top of it, basically, except the relational database, right? So today, you can start a company as fast as you turn your car on, right? And that's going to accelerate, right? So I think that's going to be so exciting, and beyond the commercial usage, how many people are going to start companies to improve pharma, energy, and everything else? It's just like tremendously exciting, I think. And it's just like you're asking me what's gonna happen. I don't know, but I'm looking forward to be surprised,
Absolutely.
uh,
Absolutely.
and see what's
Yeah.
gonna happen.
Yeah, I'm excited about it too. And the thing that I'm excited about vibe coding and people's ability to prototype so quickly is that people will be able to fail fast without having to risk as much. And I think we're going to get better ideas because of it.
Yeah, and look, at Kumo, we're gonna bring all of this to your enterprise data, so you can have those agents use your data seamlessly and make decisions out of it in a minute. I think that's gonna enable a whole new set of enterprises to spawn out. So
Yeah, absolutely. Are you guys hiring at Kumo? And if the audience wants to reach out to you, what's the best way to do that?
yeah, we're at kumo.ai, the website. There is a contact us form. We're hiring as well. There's a few positions listed there. There's a demo of our product. Yeah, happy to talk to anybody interested.
That's wonderful. Well, Vanya, it's been a pleasure to talk with you. It's great to get your perspective on all of this, and I really I'm looking forward to seeing how things develop at Kumo, and then also, we'll come back at some point in the future, and we'll see if some of our predictions have panned out.
Yeah, thanks for having me, boss.
All right, Vanya, take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Well, that's a wrap. Thanks for tuning in. Such a pleasure to have Dr. Vanja Josifovski as our guest on today's episode. His unique perspective, shaped by building recommendation systems for hundreds of millions of users at Airbnb and Pinterest, combined with his work at Kumo, gives us valuable insights into the untapped potential of structured business data. His thoughts on bridging the gap between AI predictions and actionable business decisions highlight one of the most important challenges facing enterprises today. If you want to stay connected with Vanya and learn more about Kumo's innovative approach to business data, you can find him on LinkedIn and follow Kumo's developments as they continue to partner with leading data platforms. I continue to be amazed by the guests we've had on the show, and I'm excited about the ones joining us in the near future. I truly, truly appreciate you spending your time with us. Thank you for listening to this episode, and don't forget to subscribe to the Shift AI podcast for more exciting interviews, and to the Augmented Edge newsletter for updates on how AI can help you scale your business. The Shift AI podcast is syndicated by GeekWire, and we're grateful to have the show sponsored by Augmented AI Labs. Our theme music was created by Dave Angel.